Right, before I start, the Kid Omni-Man video got bloody 6k views, Jesus Christ. I'd like to thank everyone that liked that video and the 9 people who subscribed. I got a few big ideas in the future that still need planning, but I've got a lot of stuff coming your way, so feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Anyway, back to the video. One Piece is probably one of my favourite pieces of media of all time. I'm not even sure what I like about it, but it's just, you watch a few episodes and it just grabs you. It has a very simple formula in that each arc is like a different island and the crew just go from island to island trying to find the One Piece. It's also one out of 2 shows that made me cry. The other being the show Inside Number 9, which I'll probably talk about on another occasion. Oh my god, he gave him the 20 quid. He gave him the 20 quid. Anyway, the part of One Piece that I do not like is the power scaling community. More specifically, the people that stand like one character and then just like say he's better than everyone else when he's clearly not, or she. And it's not just One Piece, I think it's in general most pieces of media that have fighting. There's a community around power scaling. I single out One Piece though because 1, it's one of my favourite things of all time, and 2, it's just the story is that massive and there's so many characters and so many divided groups that disagree with each other. So in this video I'm going to try and be covering every single group, I guess. I'll explain some things I agree with, some things I disagree with, and yeah, that's basically the video.
Let's begin.
The Admiral Glazers are probably the most infamous One Piece groups when it comes to power scaling. I think mainly because they're the most wrong. They think that the Admirals are the strongest people in One Piece when a little bit of reading comprehension just says they're not. They've taken it to extreme lengths, saying that in fights the Admirals haven't gone all out, for example with Kizaru and Luffy and Egghead. They always bring up things like Marineford and how the Admirals are stronger, when in the fights they're referring to, it's just they clearly didn't have the upper hand. Like, they mostly go after Whitebeard, the Whitebeard fights. Then of course the opposing argument is that Whitebeard was weak and old and he clearly wasn't in his prime during these fights. I think that's what I dislike most about Admiral Glazing. It's just clear that like they have an excuse for everything. Every little detail they have an excuse for. Every other group I talk about today says the same thing really. And I guess that's one of the main reasons why I dislike power scaling as a whole. It's just a back and forth. It's just an argument. It's just a fight. The Admirals are basically at a set level. They're not the strongest and they're not the weakest. So I don't know why people try to say that they're stronger than they are. Or weaker than they are really. And on the complete opposite sort of level, Yonko Glazers, they're very much more divided compared to the Admiral Glazers, since they're very much divided in their own sort of Yonko groups. They're all basically bickering amongst themselves, and it's most prevalent with the characters like Shanks, Kaido, Whitebeard, Blackbeard, definitely Blackbeard, Jesus. And while you're allowed your own opinion, it's just when it comes to characters like these, Yonkos, they're the strongest out the strongest in the One Piece world. So nobody wins in these arguments. Like, if you put these Yonkos against anyone else, for example, if you said who'd win in a fight between, I don't know, Shanks or Kizaru, there's very much a clear power imbalance, and I think a lot of people would come to agree that Shanks would win. But when it comes to, like, the best of the best, the Yonkos, I think it's a bit hard to tell, and it's a bit hard to, like, analyse. Sure, there are some stronger than others, it's just power scaling would not really work on this sort of level. You're probably telling me now, or write in the comments saying, well, George, this Yonko is stronger than this Yonko because of these reasons. And I'd say that's fine, that's your opinion. But if those two characters never fought in the actual source material, then you can't really say. Power scaling is basically used to fill them gaps, but it's sort of become a way to just justify why your favourite character is stronger. Like, if you stretched it far enough, I bet you could justify any One Piece character could be the strongest in the verse. It's sort of become less about power scaling and more about bias. By Straw Hats, I mean basically the power scaling that's going on in the Straw Hat crew. The most agreed upon sort of leaderboard would be Luffy strongest, then Zoro, then Sanji, then Jinbei, and then so on. But even then, there's still complications in the community, especially when it comes to bloody Zoro versus Sanji. Now, as a character, I've always personally preferred Sanji. Slightly off topic, but funny story. When I first watched One Piece, I saw Sanji in the intro, and he just seemed like a character I'd hate. He reminded me a lot of just like a blonde Captain Levi from Attack on Titan, so I assumed he'd just be like a watered-down version of him. But then I got to Baratie, and I was proven so wrong. What did it for me was his goodbye to Zeph, for some reason. That scene very, very nearly made me tear up, because I just found it so sweet. Then he went on to be my favourite character. Now, even though Sanji is my favourite out of the Straw Hats, it's very clear that Zoro is stronger. I think the Sanji and Zoro fans are the most feuded people in the One Piece community, just to the point where Sanji fans hate Zoro, and then Zoro fans hate Sanji. I think it's ridiculous. Then, of course, it relates to power scaling, as Sanji fans say that Sanji's stronger, which he's not, and then Zoro fans say Zoro's stronger, which he is. It's just... there's just a big feud about it, and they use feats, and it's just so annoying. My opinion is that Sanji and Zoro are equals, and Zoro's just a little bit stronger than Sanji, but obviously people would disagree. And then Jinbei fans step in, saying that Jinbei's stronger than Sanji, and then weaker than Zoro. I think they used the bounty reason for that, and I think, again, it's just, in One Piece, they got so many different ways of measuring feats, and they're all just as ridiculous as the next. I think at some point they were using, like, Samsung phones to, like, scale the characters, since they had a little collab. But I genuinely don't know what some people think this is, because I think people think that like Oda's just basically some mastermind that like overthinks every single little detail when it comes to advertising, and no, that's not what's happening. And I think it brings me to the height of what I dislike the most. I think if you're arguing within the community, you're allowed to dislike. I'm not saying you're not allowed to dislike a character. You're allowed to dislike a character, but if you're arguing within a community about who's stronger between like the Straw Hats, and you're getting that worked up about it, because I know a lot of people get worked up about it, it's just it just makes it not fun. It just makes One Piece less fun. I can already see the comments now with people just saying that it's not going to go away. I'm just going to have to cope, and I agree. It's not going to go away, and I'm not advocating for it to go away. I just don't really like how uncivil the power scaling sort of community is. And again, you're allowed your own opinion. Like, if you disagree with any of my opinions, especially like when it comes to the subject, you're allowed to. Like, no one's forcing you to believe one thing. It's just, if you think Sanji's stronger, then go ahead. Like, say it. It's just don't be surprised when a lot of people say you're wrong. Anyway, those are sort of three main communities. There are definitely more in One Piece since the world is so big, but I guess I'll make a part 2 if there's enough demand for it. But to basically sum up, power scaling in One Piece is just so pointless. I think, in my opinion, it's just you're fighting for the sake of fighting. And while there are like civil debates out there, I think it's just too many groups that like specific character that argue, and no one really gets anywhere since there's clear bias on the line. Not to mention that just 90% of it is glazing a specific character, justifying every single failure that was made, really. I don't really have any strong opinions about it. If you like debating, if you like arguing, that's fine by me. It's just, I don't. And I don't really enjoy having a preset sort of opinion when there's One Piece is still going on, and One Piece has still got many characters that still need to grow. Anyway, that's it. Like and subscribe, I guess.